As the Prime Ministers meet in Council, I'm sure one of the things they'll be talking about and thinking about, particularly as they debate migration, is with the results of the elections which took place in Europe this week. The elections in Bavaria, in Germany, in Brussels, in Belgium, in Luxembourg, where in each vote there was a historic vote. There was an incredible surge in the vote for the Green Party across Europe, for that alternative to the far right, the positive message, politics of the future, which has answers to the question not just how we might manage migration, but also how we might give our young people a home, how we might provide our public services, how we might tackle climate change. It's incredible when you look at the figures how we did in Munich and in Brussels and in Luxembourg. I think it gives a real sense of hope, and I think we'll have a lot of influence with what's discussed at that Council meeting. The Taoiseach should be aware of what's going on in the rest of Europe. But I want to concentrate, if I can, primarily on the issue of Brexit, because it cannot be ignored. We are at an incredibly difficult historic point, and we have to be really considered and careful in what we do here now. I watched yesterday the debate in the British House of Commons, where the British Prime Minister answered questions. And I read with interest today, just the breaking news coming out on the wires as we speak, that her cabinet meeting have ended with neither division nor decision, no real further clarity on what their position is. And that's been a holding position that's been in existence for 2 years and is the centre of the problem that we face. They do not seem to know what they want. And it was fascinating when you watched the Conservative backbenches on television yesterday from the House of Commons, the amount of times you saw heads nodding or disapproving against what some of their members of their own party was saying. They are deeply, deeply divided, and that brings real instability and uncertainty to the whole process of this Brexit negotiations. I think we are right to insist, as the Taoiseach said in his own speech, that we want an unlimited, not time-dated backstop guarantee should this whole process go wrong. It's interesting that those Tory ministers coming out of their cabinet meeting seem to be fixating on that as the issue of the day. They're saying there cannot be a backstop indefinitely. We need to define how it would end. I'm not too sure why they see that as the preeminent, most important issue in the negotiations. And my sense, from a distance, is that actually in recent weeks, had they chosen to see it this way, there has been some ground yielded by Brussels in conceding the concept of some customs arrangement which would apply, admittedly, on an interim basis after the withdrawal agreement. But Europe, in a sense, ceded somewhat, in my mind, to the ability of the UK economy to maintain trading relationships and to have to follow regulatory standards, obviously, but they, in a sense, applied what was originally, in my understanding, to go to Northern Ireland across to the whole of the rest of the UK. And that, I mean, some people might say it's a pretend and extend, it's kicking the can down the road. But it seemed to me to give, or it seemed even reading about the negotiations from a distance, that it was close to a deal being agreed, admittedly a deal which put off the real truth that it will not be possible for the UK to get some sort of magical trade deal with the rest of the world and still maintain easy trade relationships with the rest of the EU, or with the EU. But I was surprised, in a sense, how close we are. Why is it that the border backstop, which all sides agreed, it seemed to me, including the DUP, was something that was going to be needed to avoid a hard border? Why has that become, seemingly, was it did on say today, the Gordian knot within which this whole process has become stuck? I think we have to be careful. I think we have to remain united in this Dáil. We have pretty much on this issue for the past 2 years. I think it gives us strength. We certainly will be working with our European Green Party colleagues. I'll be meeting some of them at the weekend to look for continued solidarity and support from the Union on the necessity for a backstop, on the necessity of recognising the Good Friday Agreement. I think that has given us real strength. I think there's real risk that in the uncertainty in the UK system, there may now be a crash out no-deal Brexit that will be disastrous for this country as well as for the UK. But I don't think we should be intimidated to ceding the necessity for maintaining a borderless, as far as possible, island in Ireland. And I think the solutions that seem to be coming from Barnier, where in any future backstop arrangement there would be regulatory checks, not necessarily a border in the Irish Sea, but something very similar to what's already existing in agriculture projects and so on. There is already regulatory divergence by the reality of the fact that we do live on an island of a common agricultural policy, common energy market. There's a whole range of examples where you could show where such regulatory difference or divergence already exists. And I don't think we should be intimidated out from maintaining some of that, or the ability to have a backstop which guarantees that sort of further regulatory divergence to maintain an island which is not divided by a hard border. I have one or two, and I'm sort of maintaining close contact with my own colleagues, Stephen Agnew in MLA, Green Party, Northern Ireland, and Caroline Lucas, my colleague in the Westminster Parliament, have been clear in their call for a people's vote on whatever happens next, and what looks like it's going to get very messy in the UK. A people's vote, whether, I mean, I don't, how exactly that will work, how it will fit into possible election politics, is up to them to decide, but that is very much our support. But Stephen Agnew was in Belfast, was in Brussels recently, meeting with Stephen Agnew, meeting with Michel Barnier, along with other party representatives. And I have just one point, or maybe one suggestion, which might add to what is an incredibly complex process, but which may be useful. My understanding is that Brussels, the European Union, is willing to stand by the Good Friday Agreement, willing to recognise that citizens in Northern Ireland who may avail of an Irish identity, an Irish passport, will be fully entitled to the various freedoms that the European Union provides in travel, in healthcare, access to Erasmus or other programmes. My understanding is that that sort of favourable status, as it were, may not apply for those who self-identify as British in Northern Ireland, carry a UK passport. And I do think it's important that I'm glad that Arlene Foster was here yesterday meeting the Taoiseach. We have to maintain good relationships on the island, no matter what happens in the coming few weeks and couple of months. And I think in some ways, in trying to break down this kind of knot, we should be supporting some of those sort of initiatives where we stand up for the rights of those who hold a British passport in Northern Ireland, as well as those who might want to hold an Irish one. It's just one example of how I think we can box clever in terms of maintaining, absolutely standing with the principle of maintaining a borderless, frictionless border in the island of Ireland, but at the same time recognising that there are two communities up north, and that we can overcome and make sure this works in a way that does not divide us unnecessarily. We're going to have to wait and see. It seems to me that obviously this council meeting next week is not going to decide the issue. How far can it run before the timeline just completely runs out of road? I don't know. No one knows. But certainly the Taoiseach has the support of my party in the approach that's been taken, of the European Green Party, and that, I think, has helped us to hold a line in very difficult circumstances. I look forward to hearing back what the outcome of the council meeting is, so we can consider further what our strategy should be. Thank you.